I never imagined my life would take these unbelievable turns. Join me on this heartfelt journey. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was as if the universe had decided to flip my world upside down. One moment, I was living my ordinary life, and the next, it felt like a cruel cosmic joke. I was in the coffee shop, that familiar scent of roasted beans wafting through the air, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. "We need to talk." My heart dropped. I looked up, my hands trembling, as I noticed the barista pouring milk into a cup, the froth swirling like my thoughts. What could be so urgent? The silence in the cafe became deafening. I took a deep breath, the taste of cinnamon lingering on my tongue as I forced myself to wade through the sea of worry pooling in my stomach. You see, my mom had always been my rock. Through the chaos of my parents' divorce, she was the glue that held my family together. I remember the countless nights of her soothing my fears with stories and hugs. But something had shifted in her. She seemed distant lately, like a ghost hovering just out of reach. When I arrived home, the mood was tense. I could feel the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. My little brother was in the living room, absorbed in a video game, oblivious to the storm brewing around us. As I stepped inside, I was struck by the dim light cast over every corner. Shadows danced ominously, making my heart race. I held my breath, my pulse pounding in my ears. "Mom?" I called softly. My voice trembled, the walls echoing my uncertainty. She appeared from the kitchen, her eyes red-rimmed and weary. In that instant, I sensed a gut-wrenching revelation edging closer. "It's about Dad," she said, her voice breaking like shattered glass. Time seemed to slow down. My heart sank. The news unfurled slowly, each word striking like a hammer against my chest. Dad had been hiding something, a secret that threatened to shake the foundations of everything I thought I understood. The tears rolled down my cheeks as I fought to process the unfolding chaos. "What did he do?" I whispered, feeling my knees weaken. Mom hesitated, her hands shaking, as if holding a fragile truth. "He's been in trouble, honey. Financial trouble." Every word sliced through me. I could almost hear the echoes of my dreams collapsing like a house of cards. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from the kitchen. My heart raced as I turned, fearing what I might find. What other secrets awaited? Did I truly know my father, the man I looked up to all my life? Or was he just a stranger wearing a facade? The silence clawed at my insides, every tick of the clock amplifying my dread. I glanced back at my mom. Her eyes were pools of sorrow and fear. "I don't know what to do," she whispered, her breath shaky. Her uncertainty mirrored my own, leaving me gasping for answers. But before I could respond, a loud knock on the door echoed through the house. I jumped, every nerve on edge. Who could that be? My heart raced faster. I felt a chilling uncertainty creeping in. "Mom, should we answer it?" I asked, my voice almost drowned out by the rapid beating of my heart. "Wait here," she replied, a quaver in her voice. As she approached the door, I could feel my chest tightening. Something told me that whatever was on the other side would change everything. I held my breath, suspended between fear and anticipation. What were we about to uncover? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The tension hung thick in the air as my mom slowly turned the doorknob, her fingers trembling visibly. I could feel the gnawing anxiety clawing at my insides, my pulse racing like a frantic drumbeat. Each second felt like an eternity, and the silence that surrounded us screamed louder than any words ever could. The door creaked open, and my heart dropped as I saw the familiar face of Mr. Jenkins, our neighbor. He stood there, his shoulders hunched with the weight of an unseen burden, a brown envelope clasped tightly in his hands. I wanted to scream at him to leave, to not disturb the fragile threads of chaos already unraveling in our lives. Instead, I just stood frozen in place, my breath hitching in my throat. Mrs. Turner, he began, his voice soft yet firm, laced with an unease that mirrored my own. My mom stepped back slightly, as if she could sense the storm that was about to break. I thought you should know. He extended the envelope towards her, his gaze faltering as it met hers. I found this in your husband's car. It didn't look right. As she took it from him, her fingers brushed against his, and I realized how fragile and terrified she seemed. I felt like an outsider watching a scene unfold, torn between instinctively wanting to comfort her and the dread of what lay ahead. She opened the envelope, her face draining of color as she scanned its contents. Michael, she murmured, sinking against the doorframe, her expression collapsing into despair. My heart shattered at the sight. Why didn't you tell me? I stepped forward, desperate to know what the fallout of this moment would mean. What is it, Mom? I asked, my voice breaking. The words piled on my tongue, each one heavy with uncertainty. But suddenly, she was lost in the depths of the paper, her eyes widening as she looked up at Mr. Jenkins. How did you find this? Did you read it? She seemed frantic, the world around us beginning to spiral out of control. No, I just saw it, he replied quickly, his brows knitted with concern. I didn't want to involve myself, but I couldn't just leave it. I thought you should know. Just then, amid the tension, my little brother's laughter erupted from the living room, a stark contrast to the darkness encroaching upon us. A moment of warmth ignited in my chest, a fragile flicker in the otherwise bleak atmosphere. I clung tightly to that small reprieve as I watched my mom's face contort with a mix of anguish and fear. I stepped closer, desperately wanting to shield my brother from the heavy secrets hovering in the air. Jackson! I called out, my voice a mixture of urgency and instinct. Come here. He appeared at the doorway, his bright smile fading as he caught sight of our expressions. What's wrong? He asked, worry crossing his features. Nothing. Everything is fine. I blurted out too quickly. But I could see the fear flicker in my mother's eyes, and all I wanted was to wrap Jackson in a hug and barricade him from the overshadowing reality. Mom? Jackson's innocent voice cracked the silence like a distant bell, catching her attention. But her eyes remained vacant, the paper forgotten in her hands. She hesitated before kneeling down to meet him at eye level, the tension in her shoulders visible. Honey, I think we need to talk. But her voice trailed off, the words stolen away perhaps by the enormity of what lay ahead. Before she could speak again, my phone buzzed fiercely in my pocket, breaking the heavy moment. I fished it out, my heart racing as I noticed the name flashing across the screen. It was Dad. For a split second, time froze. My mind raced through a whirlwind of emotions: betrayal, confusion, doubt. I could feel the weight of my mom's sorrow behind me, the uncertainty cloaking the room like a thick, suffocating fog. Are you going to answer it? Mr. Jenkins asked, concern evident in his gaze. I don't know, I whispered, feeling paralyzed. The ringing seemed to swirl around us, pressing close like a tidal wave waiting to crash. I looked at my mom, who was trying to gather herself, and then at Jackson, who watched with wide, concerned eyes. I made my decision. I have to, I murmured, taking a deep breath and pressing the green button. Dad? I said, my voice trembling as I barely recognized it as my own. Please, listen to me, he began, his tone urgent, yet there was an unfamiliar tremor underneath. I know you have questions. But before he could finish, an unexpected voice broke through, a woman's voice, smooth but firm. Michael, you need to tell them the truth, before it's too late, I gasped, holding my breath as confusion and panic flooded through me. Who was this woman? What secret lay behind my father's web of lies? A tidal wave of emotions washed over me, leaving me breathless as I instinctively pulled Jackson closer. The ground beneath me felt shaky, as if the very foundations of my understanding were crumbling away. What else had my father hidden? And would this revelation sever the last strands of our family together? As the call continued, each second brought us closer to truths I wasn't ready to face, and I stood on the precipice of an unimaginable storm waiting to break. The call felt interminable, every second stretching out into a painful eternity. I held my breath, clutching Jackson to my side, his small body trembling against my own as if he sensed the upheaval swirling around us. "Who is this?" I managed to ask, my voice small in the vastness of the uncertainty. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing louder than the last, as if it were desperately searching for some forgotten truth hidden deep inside. "It doesn't matter who I am," the woman replied, her voice smooth yet tinged with urgency. "What matters is your father. He is not who you think he is." The word struck me like a physical blow. "What do you mean? What's happening?" I demanded, feeling a rush of adrenaline coupled with fear. My gaze shot to my mother, who remained kneeling, frozen in a moment suspended between understanding and despair. Mr. Jenkins stood awkwardly to the side, his hands folded in front of him, his eyes wide with apprehension. "I can't explain everything right now, but trust me when I say this. Your father has kept too many secrets, and they're about to unravel. You need to be prepared," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Why should I trust you? I don't even know who you are." I spat, anger boiling inside me. This was my family, my life. Why did strangers get involved? "It doesn't matter if you trust me or not, but you deserve the truth. Please, you need to listen to what he has to say," she insisted. Before I could respond, my father's voice returned, sounding frail and broken. "Stay on the line, Amelia. I'll explain," he pleaded. I felt the heat of a million conflicting emotions ignite within me, pain and betrayal clouding my heart. "Explain what? That you've been lying to us? That we're not the family I thought we were? What else do I need to know, Dad?" There was a heavy pause before he replied, "There are things I have kept from you to protect you, but it's time. It's time for all of you to know." I swallowed hard, the words forming a knot in my throat, a heavy reminder of the fragile trust that was slowly being chipped away. "You've protected us from what? Who are you really?" I felt the walls closing in, the weight of the uncertainty crushing me. Behind me, I could feel my mom's silent anguish, the pain reflected in her eyes, and it deepened my own fear. "Amelia, please," he said, voice cracking. "I never wanted this to hurt you. What could possibly hurt us more than the lies already have?" I fired back, the fire of confrontation mingling with an undercurrent of desperate hope that maybe this would be the moment my father would break free from his own web of deceit. "I can't explain everything on the phone. Please," he begged, "just come home. We need to talk." "Talk?" I nearly choked on the word. "What else is there to say other than I don't recognize who you are anymore, Amelia? Just listen." He tried again, but the woman interjected once more, her voice steady and determined. "Your father is in danger. It's not just about family secrets, there are people looking for him. You need to understand this quickly, while you still can." The pit of my stomach twisted violently. "Danger?" I echoed, glancing at Mr. Jenkins, whose face had grown pale. "What do you mean?" "He knows things, deep things, and there are consequences to his actions that will ripple through your lives if you don't start asking the real questions now," she said. "The truth isn't just in the past, it's coming for you with a vengeance." Suddenly, the gravity of her words hung in the air like a cold specter as realization dawned upon me. Why now? Why is this happening? Because he's out of time. The past is catching up to him, and if you don't act quickly, it might consume you all," she replied. Panic spiraled within me as I looked at my mother, who seemed even more fragile, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Jackson, sensing the tension, clutched my hand tighter as his innocence battled with the chaos unfolding around him. "I can't just go home," I said, my voice trembling, "not without knowing what's true." "Then find out." The woman's tone grew fierce. "Bravery is rooted in truth. You will need to dig into your father's past. He needs you to help uncover what he can't bear to face." As her words settled in the pit of my stomach, my heartbeat quickened, intertwining dread with an unexpected flicker of resolve. I turned the phone downwards, my finger hovering over the dismiss button, teetering on the precipice of decisions that could alter the course of our lives forever. In that charged silence, my mom reached out and placed her hand on my shoulder. I glanced at her, her face tender yet filled with an unquenchable fire, the same fire I once thought only belonged to my father. But something unspoken lingered between us, a hesitant sense of unity. Whatever happens, we'll face it together, she said softly, and simply feeling her touch staved off the encroaching darkness, if only for a moment. But just as that moment seemed to crystallize, the call dropped, disconnecting us from the chaos just before the storm would surge into our lives. An ominous silence blanketed the room, and dread gripped at my heart because I knew we had taken the first leap into uncharted territory. And then, a loud knock echoed from the front door, a stark reminder that the past was not finished with us yet. My breath caught in my throat, and I could feel my family's fragile bond flexing as we turned towards the door, the color draining from my face. It was only the beginning of a battle that would either fortify us or tear us apart forever. The loud knock resonated through the stillness, throbbing like a heartbeat in my ears. I glanced at my mother, her face drained of color, eyes wide and troubled. A flicker of uncertainty passed between us, a silent agreement shared in the depths of our worry. Jackson clutched my hand tighter, sensing the electricity in the air, the dread that pressed upon us like an anvil. Who could that be? I whispered, urging the question into the void, hoping one of us would find the courage to dispel the thickening anxiety swirling around. My mother shook her head slowly, fear gripping her features. I don't know, but we should, she began. But before she could finish, the knock came again, louder this time, insistent. With a deep breath, I took a step toward the door, each heartbeat echoing in my chest, urging me to retreat. But, fueled by a peculiar mix of fear and purpose, I reached for the doorknob. My fingers trembled against the cool metal, and I paused, searching the corners of my mind for the strength to face whatever lay beyond. Amelia, my mother's voice cut through my thoughts. Maybe it's not the right time, but there was no going back. The chaos had already lodged itself in our lives. With a resolute push, I opened the door. The figure standing on the threshold was unexpected, tall with a dark coat pulled tight against the evening chill, his face partially obscured by a knitted scarf. The tension in my chest immediately flared, the air thickening with apprehension as I searched his expression for some hint of intent. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady even as my heart raced. He lowered the scarf, revealing a sharp jawline above piercing blue eyes that seemed alive with urgency. "My name is Daniel. I'm a friend of your father's," he stated, his tone businesslike yet twinged with something deeper concern. "Maybe? We don't have much time." Behind me, my mother's breath hitched. I stole a glance back at her. The concern in her eyes deepened, and I was acutely aware that our carefully constructed world had begun to unravel, thread by fragile thread. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice faltering. "Is he's alive," Daniel cut in, his voice steadying my panic. "But we need to talk. This is about more than just family secrets, there are lives at stake." A shiver ran down my spine as I stepped back, allowing him entry. His presence filled our humble foyer, a stark contrast to the reality I knew. Jackson shifted nervously beside me, and I recalled how he had once believed that doors opened only to reveal something good, something inviting. I felt my own childhood sense of security slipping through my fingers like sand. "What's holding your father back is also what's putting him in danger. We need to act quickly," Daniel said, his voice lowering slightly as if to shield our conversation from the very walls surrounding us. As he spoke, I caught my mother's gaze softening. I could see the flicker of intrigue igniting in her eyes, the old hope she had guarded for so long making a timid resurgence that our family, despite whatever had torn it apart, was still worth fighting for. "Where is he?" she asked, her voice just above a whisper. "Near the abandoned mill by the river," Daniel replied. "There's a safe house there, but it won't stay that way for long. They're already looking for him." My heart raced at the urgency of his tone, the reality of our situation crystallizing in my mind. A million thoughts colluded with my panic. What had my father done? Who were the people after him? Why hadn't he come home himself? Why did he trust this stranger? What do we need to do? I asked, gripping Jackson's hand as if it might anchor me during this storm of revelations. Daniel's eyes pinned me with their intensity. "You need to come with me. We can't waste any more time. Trust me, Amelia. This is the only way." I turned to look at my mother again, struggling to gauge her thoughts. The silence between us was a fragile corridor stretching into an uncertain future. Could we really trust this man? But as the memories of the phone call flooded back, a feeling rooted deep inside whispered that there might be no other way. Okay, I found myself saying, the resolve settling over me like armor. Well, go with you, but just as the words left my lips, a sudden crash thundered from the back of the house. My heart stopped. The ominous reality set in, the truth that we were no longer just spectators but players in a dangerous, unyielding game. Get down! Daniel yelled suddenly, shoving us aside just as a figure burst through the doorway, a shadow cast by the flickering light in the room. The physicality of the moment jarred me as confusion morphed into pure terror, and I instinctively pulled Jackson closer. I could hear my mother's gasped fear echoing in her voice. Amelia, run! Daniel commanded, and with a glance at the chaos spiraling around us, I took a breath, the weight of uncertainty now a full-blown storm in my chest. Just as I turned to flee, I caught a glimpse of the intruder, a face that sent ice coursing through my veins as recognition dawned. A face that had haunted my nightmares. Don't you dare run, Amelia! The intruder spat, a sinister grin creeping onto his lips. Time seemed to freeze. In that heartbeat, every emotion I had been bottling rushed to the surface, dressed in fear but tinged with a feral kind of determination. I had no idea what was next, but I knew in that second it was all about to change. The chaos imploded around me, each second twisting like a knife in the flesh of the moment. The intruder's eyes glinted with malice, and his voice dripped with mockery, chilling me to the bone. I'm not here for your mother, he said, his gaze sliding past me to the corner of the room, where the shadows clung tightly around the edges. I'm here for you, Amelia. The realization crystallized in my mind. The room shrank around me, the hallway extended into an abyss. I could barely register Jackson's tugging hand as he pulled me back, urging me not to move. I had a brief, desperate urge to erase the fear radiating from my core, to scream, to run, and yet, I found my feet planted in that very moment, frozen before a monster cloaked in familiarity. Get away from her! Daniel surged forward, positioning himself between me and the intruder, and I peered past his shoulder, searching for any sign of the assurance he had exuded. The room fumed with adrenaline now, a palpable scent of wretched desperation, and I could sense the essence of fear evolving into something fiercer, fierce love of protection. She has no idea what's at stake, Daniel, the assailant sneered. But I'm here to enlighten her. For a fleeting moment, I glanced into Daniel's eyes, searching for validation, hoping he might imbue me with courage, but he was entirely focused on the threat looming at the threshold. And as the chaos buzzed in my ears, my mother surprised everyone by stepping forward, her voice a determined pitch. You have no claim here. You will not touch her. Her resolve struck me with unexpected strength. I had often seen her glassy-eyed with worry, but here she stood, embodying the warmth of hope igniting against the cold bite of fear. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't just my mother, she was my warrior. The intruder let out a low, mocking laugh, stepping closer, taking command of the situation. You think you can shield her? Amelia is as much a pawn in this game as anyone. Enough. Daniel's voice sliced through the tension, and his hand whipped out, gripping the intruder's collar. The strength behind that grip shocked me. It was a vital reminder that there was still life in the world beyond the shadows. With every ounce of power he possessed, Daniel pushed the figure back, tangling his fingers further into the fabric of that dark coat. With a smirk that twisted my stomach, the intruder merely tightened his hold on the doorway, familiarizing himself with the landscape of our fear. Don't be naive. This is so much bigger than you can comprehend. You think you can protect her from the truth? Each word he uttered was a dagger, piercing straight to the core of my being. What was this truth? My heart thundered as the weight of unspoken secrets piled upon each other, invisible chains binding us collectively to a fate I was desperate to escape. Amelia. Jackson was still tugging on my sleeve, still locked in the moment, still intent on my safety. We can't stay. We need. I shook my head slightly, trying to absorb everything while desperately searching for clarity in the storm. I need to know what he's talking about, I whispered, the weight of my own decision resounding ominously against the backdrop of madness. Now is not the time. Daniel barked, still locked in combat with the intruder, but even to my ears, there was a note of desperation, a hidden panic begging for restraint. But I was no longer merely a spectator in this twisted drama. "What truth do you speak of?" I demanded. The intruder's eyes flickered, momentarily bearing vulnerability before the malice rushed back in. "Ah, Amelia. You truly don't understand, do you? Every choice has its consequence." He cast a glance toward my mother, who flinched at the sordid implications hanging in the air like a noxious cloud. "You can't escape your bloodline, darling. It's a curse and a blessing." Incredulity coursed through me, capturing the weight of innumerable questions, each blossoming into fractals of confusion. I felt the room swim as the implications of his words sank in, and I wondered, what curse breathed life into my father's shadows? What secrets had my family buried beneath the layers of normalcy? The reason we had hidden away, trying desperately to maintain stability, suddenly left a bitter taste on my tongue. "Why should I believe anything you say?" I spat back, defiance consuming my fear. "You're just a monster hiding behind a mask. If you know anything about the truth, it's because you've perpetuated the lies all along." A chuckle erupted from the intruder, rich with madness. "Lies? Oh, sweet Amelia, you're only scratching the surface. But if you seek the truth," his voice dropped to a low, conspiratorial hum, "then I suggest you discover it before they find your father, because he's not just in danger. He's the reason for this entire chaos." A shudder of terror rippled through me, leaving me reeling. You're lying. Just lying." "Then why does your heart race with every word?" His dark grin showed teeth that gleamed like daggers, unsettling yet undeniably captivating. Time folded in on itself as the peril of my father's fate merged with the haunting promise of uncovering deeper, hidden truths. My body responded on instinct, desire mingling with rage, realization sparking anew. Somewhere within the swirling storm of secrets, lies, and half-remembered dreams lay my father, and perhaps a glimmer of hope. "Enough!" Daniel shouted, his voice ringing through the disarray like a tolling bell. "Leave now, or I will take you down myself." At that moment, a silence fell over the scene, an electrifying pause that ballooned as tautly as a bowstring pulled back within the depths of uncertainty. What would it take for the intruder to relent? Would he share more, or would that be the last we heard of the myriad truths that tugged at the edges of our lives? "Time will reveal everything, Amelia," the intruder finally said, a rare formality creeping into his voice. "But remember this, when your world collapses, I'll be the one standing amidst the wreckage to guide you home." The promise dissolved into the void, as Daniel prepared himself to launch at the intruder, but before I could voice a warning, the figure slipped back into the shadows, leaving only traces of fear hanging in the air like a ghost. My heart hammering, I turned back to Jackson and my mother, the weight of the unresolved truth thick around us, blanketing the room in a fragile darkness. "What do we do now?" I whispered, looking for clarity, for an answer that might tether us through the coming storm. But as I met Daniel's gaze, embers of dread haunted his expression, and the uncertainty echoed back in my heart, the promise of answers working themselves into questions anew, taut with the unresolved ember of tension laid precariously beneath. The night stretched before us, dark and foreboding, and within it lingered a chilling sense of impending chaos. I had stepped beyond the threshold of normality and peered into a world riddled with risks and revelations, faced with a shocking reality that could shatter our lives forever. And just when I thought the shadows could not grow deeper, the soft, eerie tone of my phone vibrated against the countertop, illuminating in the dark like a taunting specter of possibility, demanding my attention as the screen flashed with an unknown number, a message waiting to unfold that could rewrite everything I believed. The room held its breath as I hesitated, staring at the glowing screen that buzzed with untold implications. An unknown number, a hidden message, the harbinger of secrets that had the power to upend everything. As I reached out to grab my phone, the tremors in my hand echoed the chaos weaving through my heart. "What is it?" Daniel asked, his voice laced with urgency, yet there was an underlying thread of concern. Jackson stood close behind me, his breath hitching as he leaned forward, curiosity mingling with fear in his wide eyes. My mother, still emboldened from her stand against the intruder, remained alert, ready to shield me from any threat. "I don't know," I whispered, my voice barely audible above the pounding of my heart. With a deep breath, I swiped the screen, revealing a single message that felt heavy with promise and peril alike. Amelia, if you want to know the truth about what you've inherited, meet me at the old lighthouse at dawn. Trust no one. The words spiraled into my mind, wrapping around my thoughts like thick fog. A chill raced down my spine, igniting flashes of imagery connected to tales I had heard as a child. The lighthouse always looming at the edge of our small coastal town, a relic with a history marred by storms and shipwrecks. Despite rarely visiting, the stories of it being a sanctuary of hidden truths intrigued me, sending shivers of both dread and curiosity through my veins. Who is it from? Jackson's voice cut through the haze, and I glanced up to see his face pale, the color drained beneath the weight of uncertainty. I don't know. It doesn't say, I managed to reply, swallowing hard as a new wave of fear washed over me. But it talks about my inheritance. What the intruder mentioned. This is so much bigger than I thought. Amelia, you can't go alone. We don't know what's waiting for you there, Daniel insisted, taking a step closer, desperation etched in his features. I won't go alone, I insisted. But I have to find out. I have to know what this is about. As the reality sank in, a storm of emotions flickered within me. Could I really trust Daniel or Jackson? What if this meeting was a trap? Yet there lingered an undeniable itch, an unquenchable thirst for understanding that drove my every thought toward the lighthouse. Listen, my mother interjected, her voice a calming beacon amidst the storm of my thoughts. We'll go together. We face whatever this is as a family. You're not walking into danger alone, not after tonight. The bond we shared, forged through fear and the unknown, momentarily flickered with warmth and connection as I absorbed her words, but doubt still gnawed at me. But how will we know it's safe? What if the intruder is right? What if my father is involved in something terrible? Sometimes, my mother said, stepping closer, the only way to understand our loved ones and the paths they've walked is to embrace the darkness ourselves. It doesn't mean we have to surrender to it, but we must be brave enough to confront it together. Though I found reassurance in her resolve, the pit in my stomach grew heavier. Did bravery always reside comfortably on the other side of fear? As Daniel's gaze softened with understanding, I realized we shared the same internal battle, a mess of doubt wrapped in a yearning for truth, a truth that seemed more treacherous with every step I took. The night deepened around us, shadows clutching tight to every wall in the room. Each tick of the clock drained the vitality from the space, time spiraling towards an uncertain dawn. And yet, buried within that uncertainty, sparks of hope flickered faintly, seasoned with kindnesses often overlooked, the small gestures of solidarity that knit us closer together even in the face of peril. Don't worry, I'll protect you, Jackson declared steadfastly, as if he were grasping onto the remnants of control amidst the impending chaos. Thank you, I murmured, my heart swelling with a renewed bond that pulsed with promise and friendship. As if sensing the fragile peace among us, the oppressive silence was punctured by the sudden shriek of a seagull outside. The sound sent a jolt through my heart, reminding me of the unpredictable world beyond those walls, a world teetering on the brink of unimaginable changes and churning tides. Facing my family, I clenched the phone tightly, knowing I had made my decision. Tomorrow at dawn then, I said, determination coating my words. But as the night wore on, I realized unsettling thoughts didn't just linger, they curled around me, whispering caution while the echoes of the intruder's words hissed in my mind. Trust no one. What did he mean by that? Was Daniel truly on my side? My mother and Jackson? Clouds of mistrust gathered even as I tried to shake them away. I was plunged into a tempest of conflicting emotions, adrenaline surging through me as a new fear gripped my heart, twisting it painfully tight. With the first rays of dawn just beyond the horizon, I lay awake in the stillness, the lighthouse looming ever closer, a beacon promising answers shrouded with uncertainty. And as I finally drifted into bruised sleep, the thought struck me like a lightning bolt: could the answer to my father's secrets also lead to my own unraveling? The world blurred as darkness swallowed me whole, undefined whispers teasing at the edges of my mind, entwining fragments of a story yet to be fully unveiled. And as the shadows danced within my dreams, I didn't realize just how dark the revelation waiting for me would truly be. The dawn crept in slowly, its gentle light seeping through the thin curtains and casting a soft glow across my room. I blinked awake, the events of the previous night swirling in my thoughts like a tempest. The weight of the message lay heavy on my chest, and my heart thudded in a frantic rhythm while I wrestled with what lay ahead. The lighthouse would still be there, standing defiantly against time and memory. I could almost feel its call, the whisper of truth tempting me to unravel the threads of my past. I got out of bed, the floor cool against my feet, and glanced out the window where the ocean glimmered in the light, each wave crashing against the shore seeming to echo my inner turmoil. As I joined my family in the kitchen, I was met with shared glances of determination, woven with undercurrents of fear. Daniel's hands were clasped around a steaming mug, his eyes piercing through the fog of uncertainty as they met mine. Jackson stood by the counter, a nervous energy radiating off him as he fidgeted with the hem of his shirt. And my mother, the anchor of our fragmented vessel, was flipping pancakes, the aroma mingling with the saltiness of the sea in the air. "Are you ready?" my mother asked, her voice steady yet laced with unspoken dread. I could see in her eyes the worry she carried silently, an echo of my own trepidation. "I don't know," I confessed, the vulnerability slipping through my guard. Each heartbeat reminded me that this day held the potential to tear our lives apart or stitch them together in unexpected ways. "Just remember," Daniel said softly, "we're in this together. Whatever happens, we face it shoulder to shoulder." I managed a small smile, comforted by his steadfastness, yet deep inside, I still clutched the gnawing fear that our lives were about to change irrevocably. As we finished breakfast, I couldn't shake the feeling that with each moment passing, the lighthouse loomed closer, not just in distance, but in the depth of our truths intertwined with its shadowy past. When we stepped outside, the brisk morning air was laden with anticipation as we made our way through the shuddering town. Each sound, the distant crash of the waves, the rustle of leaves, the laughter of children, felt intensified, as if the universe itself was holding its breath for what we were about to unravel. "You know, I've heard stories about that lighthouse," Jackson said suddenly, breaking the silence. "They say it's haunted. That the spirits of sailors lost at sea still wander the rocks around it." His voice held an edge of excitement mixed with fear. "Don't tell me that," I replied lightly, trying to dismiss the shiver that crept up my spine. "Whatever waits for us there is already scary enough." As we approached the lighthouse, the weathered structure appeared both majestic and menacing, standing tall against the backdrop of the angry sea, waves crashing against its base with a ferocity that echoed the turmoil inside me. The salty air was heavy with tension, and I could feel the ground tremble beneath our feet as we got closer. With cautious steps, we reached the door, weathered by countless storms, and shared a glance, the unspoken fears pooling between us, heavy and palpable. I could see Jackson's bravado waver, and for a moment, even Daniel faltered, his usual confidence fraying at the edges. But my mother squeezed my hand, bolstering our resolve as we pushed the door open. The aged wood creaked, protesting our intrusion into the lighthouse's sanctuary. Inside, the air was thick with dust and memories, whispering secrets long buried. I took a deep breath, the mustiness filling my lungs, mingling with a sense of dread that clung like fog around us. "Where do we go?" Daniel asked, peering into the dim shadows, his gaze darting around as if searching for clarity amid the uncertainty. "Up," I answered, my voice barely above a whisper. "I think it's in the beacon room." With each step up the narrow staircase, shadows clung to us, and whispers of the past brushed against my skin. The history echoed, tales of sorrow and loss, of ships swallowed by waves, resonating with pain. We reached the top and stepped into the room, a circle of glass through which the ocean stretched endlessly, but beyond the breathtaking view, a large leather-bound book lay waiting on a pedestal, its appearance almost regal in its solitude. I hesitated, dread pooling in my stomach at what might lie within those pages. Was this the truth I had sought for so long? I reached for it, my fingers trembling as I opened the cover. The smell of aged paper wafted up, mixing with the salty breeze. My pulse quickened as I scanned the words, a diary of sorts belonging to my father, a history I had never known, yet it felt achingly familiar. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind us, jolting me from my reverie. The sound echoed like a thunderclap in the confined space, causing my heart to race. What was that? My voice quivered with anxiety. "I don't know," my mother replied, her eyes wide with shock, fear flickering in her gaze as she moved closer to me, a protective instinct igniting. And then, the book in my hands felt warm as if it recognized my touch. I didn't understand why, but I felt its presence tugging at me, an undeniable connection to my father and the secrets he had buried deep within its pages. Just as I turned to share my revelation, the lighthouse trembled around us, a whisper of warning reverberating within its walls. With adrenaline surging, I realized that as we delved deeper into the mystery of my inheritance, we might uncover not just my father's past but the horrors that had haunted our family for generations. Amelia, Daniel's voice broke through my thoughts. What if we were never meant to find this? What if the darkness here is just beginning? And in that moment, the floor beneath our feet shook violently, knocking us off balance, as I let the book slip through my fingers. It landed with a resounding thud, and the pages flared open, revealing a photograph tucked within a photograph that could change everything I thought I knew. I glanced down, the world around me spinning as the reality of the image grasped me in its unyielding grip. There in the picture, my heart raced, a truth so startling it threatened to shatter everything, a face I had never seen before, yet somehow felt deeply familiar, standing beside my father, an undeniable connection waiting to be uncovered. And in that heart-stopping moment, I realized we're no longer just confronted with shadows of the past. The truth was far more complicated and terrifying than I had ever imagined. "Who are you?" I whispered, the question lingering in the air as the lighthouse around us continued to tremble, shifting the very foundations of my world. With the photograph burning into my mind, my heart raced as 1,000 questions collided with one another. Who was this person who stood so comfortably next to my father, a stranger yet unexpectedly familiar in my innermost thoughts? I could almost hear the echo of my own breath, each inhalation steeped in disbelief. "Amelia, what did you find?" My mother's voice sliced through the thick silence, her urgent tone pulling me back from the precipice of my swirling thoughts. I swallowed hard, fighting against the suffocating weight of realization. It's a picture," I stammered, forcing myself to look away from it, terrified of the answers that lay just out of reach. "Someone is with my dad, someone I don't know." "Who is she?" Daniel leaned in, his shoulders stiff, tension coursing like electricity between us. There was fear in his eyes, hidden beneath the composed surface I relied on, an unshakable reminder that we were not alone in this labyrinthine deception. "Let me see," he urged, gently taking the photograph from my shaky hands. He studied it with an intensity that made my stomach knot, and I could feel Jackson hovering nearby, his face a mask of confusion and concern. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered, shaking his head. "How could there be someone else? I mean, I never knew your father had anyone else in his life." The photograph bore witness to a life unknowable, of laughter shared and memories forged far away from the confines of our home. My heart dropped as I caught sight of the woman's smile. It was radiant yet cloaked in shadows I couldn't begin to understand. Something about it tugged at my heartstrings, a longing for answers that might never come. Maybe she was just a friend," my mother suggested, clutching my arm tightly, but her attempt at reassurance felt hollow, echoing through the tense air as uncertainty quelled around us. "It doesn't have to mean anything more than that." But I could see the cracks starting to form in her facade, worry pulled in her eyes like an unspoken truth. The door behind us continued to rattle, as if drawing strength from the ancient stones, reminding us that we were not just here to unearth family secrets but were entangled in something beyond our comprehension. "Let's keep looking," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "There has to be more in this book. We need to understand everything." The journal was calling to me, the ink seeming to shimmer with the weight of every story it held. I turned back to the pages, desperate to grasp the life of the man I never really knew, even as the photograph threatened to unravel everything I thought I understood about my family. "Amelia, maybe we should leave," Daniel said, his eyes darting nervously towards the trembling walls. "Whatever happened here is threatening to wake up. No," I insisted, a surge of determination driving my words. "I won't let fear close this door on us. We came here for the truth, and I'll face whatever it means." Somewhere deep inside me, a flicker of hope began to spark, a hope that maybe this revelation, as harrowing as it seemed, could pave the way for healing. With every word I read, the stories built a tapestry of my father's life, threads intertwining amidst sorrow and joy, pain and hope. As we delved deeper, the energy around us shifted, tangible and thick, gnawing at my sense of reality. The lighthouse felt alive, as if the spirits of those who had come before us were urging us onward. Pulsing within its walls was a longing to be freed from the weight of grief and regret, to share their stories intertwined with my own. But just as clarity began flickering at the edges of the shadows, the ground beneath us shook again, more violently this time, wrenching the book from my lap and sending it sliding across the room like a specter unwilling to return. The cries of the lighthouse swelled, resonating through the air with a deafening roar, demanding we heed its warnings. In a chaos of movement, I scrambled to grab the edges of the fallen journal, but the outpour of emotion was nearly overwhelming, swirling through me and threatening to drown my resolve. My fingers brushed against the book's spine, but as I reached for it, I glanced up and froze. In front of me, a flickering shadow appeared, a figure shimmering in and out of existence. It was the woman from the photograph. I gasped, my heart thundering in my chest as she stepped closer, her features becoming distinct. Her expression was a tapestry of longing, sorrow, and the aching weight of unspoken words. "Amelia," she whispered, her voice reverberating through the air like a wisp of wind across the ocean. "You have to listen, you need to understand." In that moment, the world around me vanished, the lighthouse, the chaos, the fears as I stood alone facing her. Questions flooded my mind, but the only one that escaped my lips was a breathless, desperate plea, "Who are you?" But before she could answer, the earth surged beneath us once more, and the figure flickered, wavering like a mirage. My heart screamed as I reached for her, but the darkness rushed in, drowning her presence in a torrent of shadows, leaving only echoes of hope and despair behind. And as the door of the lighthouse flew open, the cool breeze swept in with an ominous promise, hinting that the deepest truths were yet to come, assembling a puzzle that would lay bare everything I held dear or shatter it completely. As the wind howled through the open door, I felt the world shifting beneath my feet, obscuring the reality I had clung to. Daniel's hand gripped mine, his eyes wide with the same mix of shock and bewilderment that coursed through me. Jackson stood frozen, his jaw set tight as though he were bracing against an unseen force. Yet it was my mother's terrified gaze, wide and unblinking, that anchored the tumultuous emotions swirling within me. "What just happened?" she whispered, each word laced with trepidation, as if speaking might dissolve the tether connecting us to the unearthly encounter we'd just faced. "That woman, she was here," I murmured, struggling to gather the fragmented pieces of my awareness. Reality felt like an edge of a knife, sharp and treacherous. I could still sense the lingering warmth of her presence, as though it still hung in the air, tapping insistently at the corners of my mind. "Maybe it was just your imagination," Jackson offered weakly, refusing to meet my gaze. The familiar words didn't hold their usual comfort. Instead, they stirred something deep within me, a shameful guilt for delving into the past I had always taken for granted. Was I truly suppressing my emotions, still unprepared to confront my father's hidden truths? "No," I said fiercely, heart racing with determination. "She wasn't just a figment. I know it. She's connected to my father in a way none of us ever understood. It was a thread I needed to follow, even if it was wrapped in shadows and pain." "We need to," Daniel began, but a sudden growl of thunder erupted outside, drowning out our discussion with its discordant roar. One look exchanged between us told me we could wait no longer. The lighthouse had awakened, and it wasn't going to let us leave without imparting its secrets. As I stepped toward the threshold, eager to chase the truth, a flurry of energy pulsed through the ground, a surge that bucked against me like an angry wave. I stumbled back, my heart racing as fear gnawed at my resolve. "What if we aren't meant to find out?" I whispered, the question both directed toward Daniel and myself. "Then what are we doing here?" he countered, his voice firm and unwavering. "Amelia, that woman reached out to you for a reason. We have to uncover what she wanted, even if it scares us." The air thinned as tension coiled around us like a storm, forcing the reality of our situation to settle in. With a nod, I took a step forward, my resolve cemented as we approached the doorway together. It felt as though stepping into an abyss, ready to plunge into the unknown depths of the lighthouse's heart. Beyond the threshold, the storm raged, echoing the maelstrom within my own mind. We ventured into the darkness, allowing the dim light of the lanterns flickering against the walls to guide our way, each step a rebellion against the shadows pursuing us. As we entered a corridor lined with old photographs and peeling wallpaper, the silence was palpable, heavy with memories layered beneath the surface. I reached out, brushing my fingers against the fabled images that loomed large, remnants of my father's life laid bare. Faces blurred and time wandered past, but among them, there was one that caught and held my gaze, a man standing alongside the woman from the photograph, his smile wide and genuine. "Look," I breathed, pointing to the image. This is my dad, and she's right there." Jackson's brow furrowed as he examined the photo. "But how can you be sure?" These pictures are from different times. Just because they were both captured here doesn't link them, maybe not, but there's something written on the back. Pulling the photograph off the wall with trembling hands, I turned it over and gasped at the hastily scrawled words. My love, my other half. Together forever, no matter the storms we weather. What does that mean? My mother stepped closer, her voice strained. I don't know yet, I replied, heart racing with fear and the urgency for answers. But it seems they knew each other deeply. The connection is there. As we sorted through the labyrinth of memories, I kept searching for a signal clue that would lead me to that other truth lingering like a whisper in the air. A sound caught my attention, a soft rustling, almost like a call. My heartbeat quickened as I turned to see a small door slightly ajar at the end of the corridor. Do you hear that? I breathed, instantly captivated. Without waiting for an answer, I started toward it, fueled by both dread and curiosity. The door creaked open in response to our approach, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling downward into darkness. Cold air rushed forth, chilling me to my core but igniting a fire in my chest, a longing for answers. Amelia, are you sure about this? Daniel's voice trembled slightly, a candid reflection of my own fear. We have to know, I insisted, an urgency underpinning my words. We can't let fear stop us now. Not when the truth is within reach. Ignoring the ghost of hesitation, I felt a sense of purpose as I began my descent. With every creaking step down, feelings of hope mingled with the weight of dread. What awaited us in those shadows could change everything. As we reached the bottom, a soft glow emerged around another door, illuminating the small space we had entered. But as we opened the door, the sight before us stole my breath away. It wasn't just remnants of the past. It was a hidden room alive with evidence of my father's life, a clue left behind, marinated in secrets that intertwined with that haunting figure. With shaky breaths, but now with a sense of undeniable urgency, I stepped further inside. What are we about to uncover? I whispered to myself, a lingering thought trailing behind me like a ghost, and just as I was about to reach for the papers littered across a wooden table, a distant echo called out my name, reverberating softly like a siren song. I froze, feeling the warmth of hope and fear collide in my chest. Amelia, you have to find me. The voice was unmistakable, painted with desperation. I stumbled back, my heart racing as realization set in all at once. The woman had come to me again, deeper than before, demanding attention once more amid the chaos. Amelia. We have to go. Daniel's voice broke through, dragging me from my reverie, his face pale and alarmed, the light flickering ominously behind him. Was it too late to turn back? Or was I already too far gone in this unraveling mystery, stretching into an unknown fate? In that moment, a thunderous crack echoed through the lighthouse, the walls shuddering like the pulse of a living entity resisting our discovery. The time to step back had vanished, and it struck me inside those dark corridors lay secrets that might alter everything I believed, perhaps even bearing the weight of the truth I had chased down since the moment I found that photo. With a fiery resolve lighting my spirit, I knelt to grasp the papers scattered on the table, every pulse of energy cascading through the air around me. But before I could lift them, a cold grip seized my should a substance foreign yet all too familiar. And in that chilling moment, before I could draw a breath, the darkness consumed my vision, plunging me headfirst into a revelation that seemed inevitably a long-buried truth threatening everything I thought I knew, ready to awaken and tear my very world apart. As the darkness enveloped me, I felt as if time had fractured into an echo of a former life. I heard whispers, soft and urgent, calling me deeper into the shadows where the truth danced just beyond reach. My heart raced, thrumming against the cage of my ribs, as I clawed my way back to consciousness. When the world finally blurred back into focus, I was no longer kneeling in that hidden room. I found myself standing in the lighthouse's main chamber, surrounded by Daniel, my mother, and Jackson. Their faces mirrored my confusion, their eyes wide, reflecting the tumultuous emotions swirling within me. Amelia. Are you okay? My mother's voice pierced through the haze of my thoughts, her hand gripping my shoulder with an intensity that reminded me of home safety, but I felt far from safe now. I was just. The words faltered as I grappled to recall the fragments of my vision. Images of the woman flickered before me, her pleading gaze a haunting echo. She was here. She called my name. I could hear her. Daniel stepped closer, glancing between the door leading to the dark staircase and the expanse of memories surrounding us. She's reaching out for something. This place is tied to your father, to your family's secrets. We have to understand it, but as the reality of the moment flooded back, my heart sank with the weight of realization. It wasn't just about uncovering family secrets anymore, this was about unearthing connections about family, legacies, and the burdens we carried, often unaware. I need to know who she was, I said, desperation bleeding into my voice. She holds the key to my father's past. With resolve, I looked over at the space where the papers had once been scattered, they seemed to beckon me. We need to find out what my father left behind. My mother nodded, determination carving her features into a mask of strength. Together, we moved toward the table where remnants of my father's life lay strewn about, battered by time yet whispering stories eager to be told. I swept up a bundle of letters, their edges frayed, each envelope bore my father's handwriting, neat but rushed, a glimpse into the thoughts he must have carried. As I unfolded the first letter, the scent of aged paper mingled with the undulating waves outside. As I began to read, the words melted into my consciousness, weaving a narrative straight from my father's heart. He wrote about love lost and found, shadows that chased him, and regrets that still stung, punctuated by the acknowledgement of a woman who was once integral to his life. I knew you would seek the truth, Amelia. But it won't come without its price. Remember, the past is a web that will entrap you if you do not tread carefully. The letters chronicled a complicated love affair, tracing years where the lines between deception and devotion blurred relentlessly. He loved her, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper, the truth unfurling like a ghost on the edge of a knife. He didn't just keep her a secret. He loved her in the way that he couldn't fully let go. I am so sorry you had to find out like this, my mother said, her voice trembling with sorrow for the unmarked landscapes of heartache my father must have navigated. It felt as if the walls of the lighthouse held their breath. I continued reading the revelations, finding connections that spanned sadness to Clarissa tapestry of existence, born through turbulent choices. Each word led me further down a path of understanding, of unconditional love that intertwined with the inevitable tragedies of life, and then, there it was, the name. A name that resonated with an echo of familiarity. Clara, I breathed, my heart skipping a beat. Her name was Clara. She was my father's greatest love. Jackson leaned in closer, curiosity etched in his young face. So, she isn't just some stranger? She was a part of us, the realization wrapped around me, heavy and enlightening. Yes, in a way, she always was. We are products of our pasts, of every person and every choice that paved this life. But just then, the lighthouse shook violently once more, pulling me back into the storm of what lay ahead. The walls trembled like ancient giants plagued by memories, and a sudden fear gripped me on that echoed through my bones. I knew there was something I had to face, a decision that would lace the remains of my father's past into the present once again. Where is Clara now? I whispered, almost afraid of the answer, as the overwhelming weight of consequence settled around me like a shroud. I don't know, Daniel said solemnly. But I believe she has been searching for closure just as much as your father sought his own. In that moment, I saw a path that lay before me, laden with shadows yet illuminated by shards of truth. I would not only seek out the secrets of my father but also the depths of love intertwined with loss. It was the only way to piece together our family's story, to mend the fractures hidden away in darkness. We need to leave, I said, urgency creeping into my tone. We need to find Clara. The lighthouse came alive around us, wind whipping through its narrow windows, a guardian urging us on our quest for truth. As we descended the staircase, the air hummed with anticipation, echoes of past souls intertwining with our own, guiding our steps, urging us not to falter. Outside, the bright sun hovered over the horizon, casting rays that danced upon the waves. As we stepped into the light, that unquenchable hunger for understanding bore down upon me. This journey is about more than just knowing what my father hid from us. It's about healing, offering forgiveness for all the pain and the mistakes that shaped who we are. Daniel nodded, eyes aflame with solidarity. And you're right to pursue it, Amelia. The truth holds power, and it's time you wield it. As we drove toward the unknown, a direction solid in resolve, I caught Jackson gazing at me with bright eyes filled with admiration and hope, the weight of our shared discoveries pulling him closer to understanding his own place in this expansive narrative. and just as Clara's name echoed in my mind, a genuine smile would spread across my face, inspired by the courage ignited within our bonds. We would find her, weaving our tangled lives together like threads pulled from a forgotten tapestry, and from there, we would learn to redefine the stories we told ourselves. In the distance, the lighthouse stood tall against the shadows, a steadfast symbol of truth waiting to be embraced. With each passing moment, a flicker of hope blossomed within me, whispering of fresh beginnings, of forgiveness that could light the way forward, and even as the past faded into the distance, the journey had always been about love, about facing the darkness to find the light. "I'll seek the truth, for all of us," I whispered, not just to my family but to the shadows that had long lurked, listening. Because sometimes, the hardest journeys lead to the brightest destinies. With that single phrase, where pain transformed into purpose, I felt change unfurl deep within. As we ventured forth into that dauntless light, I held on to the belief that the greatest power of all was belonged to history, to family, to myself. And that truth would guide me home.